Hey, this is Tuesday, November 3rd. This is the video for, well, today's lesson. So if you missed class on Tuesday and you want to get caught up, here's what we did. So this is the bottom. It doesn't really matter what class you're in. This is at the bottom where we have the Atticus and Friends brainstorming and organizing. And then when you click on it and you click back into your document, this is what it looks like. So yesterday being Monday, we were looking for evidence to support this idea that, despite what's going on in Jem's head, the men outside the Finch house are their friends. One of the first pieces of evidence we saw yesterday is the sheriff comes and knocks on the door. Jem answers it, and he tells Atticus that the sheriff's here. And Atticus says, well, ask him to come in, which sounds like they're friends. And the thing that makes this doubly good in terms of a piece of evidence is that Jem says, I already did. So before Atticus can even tell Jem to invite the sheriff in, Jem has already invited the sheriff in. So it seems as though the sheriff is friends with Atticus, which kind of goes along with this idea that the men who talk outside the Finch house, including Atticus, those men are Atticus's friends. So that's what we're looking for. At the front end of that is that piece of evidence, and at the back end of this text is another piece of evidence. And Jem's concerned. He's not exactly sure that these are Atticus's friends. And in fact, while he's looking out the window, he's got his nose pressed to the screen, and he sees Atticus move to the bottom step of the porch. And he watches the men drawing nearer to him. So he thinks there is, I don't know, they're going to attack him maybe? They're kind of closing in on him. So he screams, the telephone's ringing. And then for Atticus, he's just like, well, answer it, which is funny to everybody because, why is Jem yelling that the phone is ringing? He's the one who's in the house. So it's this piece of evidence. It's also pretty darn good. All the men start laughing about this because it is kind of funny. But it also goes along with this idea that, if they're laughing together as a group, then this key word here is that they're friends. What else? We see linked D's here in this first page, and he's one of the guys who's out in the front yard, and he says to Atticus, he says, look, nobody around here is up to anything. It's that old Sarum bunch I'm worried about. So even Link is like, look, it's nobody here in the front yard that you have to worry about. What I'm worried about, according to Link D's, is what's known as the old Sarum bunch. I'm just going to flip over to this neighborhood map here. And as you can see in this map of the Finch's neighborhood, we got the Finch house here. Miss Rachel, where Dill stays every summer, is over here. Miss Maudie's across the street. Mr. Avery, who is also in the front yard right now. A neighbor is in the front yard. Anyway, Atticus walks this way to work. The whole conversation outside the Finch house is about moving Tom Robinson to this jail right here. He's been in another jail, and now they're moving him to this jail because it makes sense since the courthouse is right here. This is where his trial is going to be. So if this is where his trial is going to be, keeping him in this jail during his trial, they're right next to each other. So it makes sense. And what Link D's was saying is that, if you head north this way out of town, this is where you run into the town called Old Sarum. The Cunninghams live out that way. I'm sure lots of people live out that way, but Old Sarum is exactly what Link was saying he's worried about. Nobody around here is up to anything. It's that old Sarum bunch I'm worried about. So there's some concern out there that the people who live north here, the people that Link D's refers to as the Old Sarum Bunch, that there might be trouble if you move Tom Robinson to this jail. I mean, this trial is a big deal. Tom Robinson is accused of raping a white woman in the Deep South in the 1930s. It's going to be a big deal in this town. So Link D's is concerned about what might happen if you move Tom to this jail. And then later on, this is just some of the things that folks said. This is also Link D's. He tells Atticus, and it sounds like he's friends with Atticus. And he says, you know, look, Atticus, this is a dangerous trial for you, being Tom's lawyer. I mean, you've got everything to lose from this. I mean, everything. So it just sounds like what one friend might say to another friend. Like, be careful. Sounds like advice, maybe. Link D's does talk a lot in this, and Atticus addresses him, but he addresses him with his voice even. So when he talks to Link, his voice is even. He doesn't raise his voice. He's not yelling. He's not angry, but it's even. And I'm sure you can find a number of other things, like he refers to Link D's by his first name. He refers to Heck Tate by his first name. Heck Tate by his first name. So it just sounds like Atticus is among friends. Are there other pieces of evidence in here that you might be able to use? Yeah, probably. These are some of the best ones, though. Oh, one more. Don't want to forget this one. These are some of Scout's words. And she just points out for everybody, like, you know, who's there? And who's there outside the house in the front yard? They, being the people in the front yard, they were the people we saw every day. People who own stores, farmers that we know, their doctor, Dr. Reynolds is there, Mr. Avery's there, and I just showed you the neighborhood map. If Mr. Avery is there, he didn't have very far to go. He just walked out his house down the street a little, and he's at Atticus's house. So they know all these people. Scout even seems to know all these people, and she's like 6 or 7 or however old she is in the book at this point, but she's pretty young. Anyway, down here, there is an example for taking the next step, and that's presenting evidence. So this is an example of a piece of evidence. I'll let you read it on your own, but you can see there's a transition, a lead-in, an attributive tag, the piece of text evidence, the citation, and then a lead out explaining how or why this yellow stuff supports the idea that the men outside the Finch house are friends. Here's my suggestion, is that while you're working in the document, while you're working on this, you can copy and paste the evidence right from the document. So see if I can right click with one hand. There we go. Copied it. Coming down here, and this is the most important box because it's the text evidence box. Like, all your choices are dependent on what pieces of evidence you're choosing to support the idea that the men outside the Finch house are friends. And that means adding the citation when you're done as well. I looked this up ahead of time, so I know that it's on page 195. The period on the outside. It's a little bit of arts and crafts. I'm just undoing the highlighting for this because we don't highlight the citation, just making sure we have it. These are Scout's words, quick and simple. You can always change this for your own sake. Scout says, comma. This is blue, it's an attributive tag. These are Scout's words. And of course, I guess the thing I need here is to make sure that get the quotation marks going. We are quoting her directly. This mark of punctuation has to go. End quote. So I've got my quotation marks around my direct quote that I've borrowed. So what do you need? You can have this, by the way, for free. You can have it for free. This is your piece of evidence. So this is your very first one. This is just an example. You can lean on it for help, but let's say you decided to pick one of these kind of, you know, first transitions. So let's say you wanted, first of all, this is your first piece of text evidence. First of all, so you need a lead in and you need a lead out for this piece of evidence. So this needs to get done. This needs to get done all on your own. So you need another piece of evidence. Start with a piece of evidence and then work on some of these other concepts. It's your second piece of evidence. And if you want to be considered for some extra credit, then this third batch of boxes also needs to be filled in. That's what we did on Tuesday. Most people got at least one, got this one done, and then had to work on a second one or a third one for homework. Good luck. Go get them.